I'm going to stand out in the sun because if you guys have to, I should have to as well. So, first of all, let's give a big hand to Ruben and the people that organized this. I know from experience this is a lot of burden to carry, it's a lot to put together. Make sure you go over there and give a few dollars to the donation because it costs a lot. You got the bathrooms here, you got all this stuff going on. Make sure you support those that are standing the line and putting things like this together. You know, I want to start with something. I have a thing that I always say that I will start every battle on my knees and I will end standing on my feet boldly before tyrants. And so I'm going to start with a very short prayer. And we need to appeal to heaven for liberty. We don't always all agree on everything. Sometimes we come from different angles, and you know what? I'm going to kneel down and I'm not going to be looking whether you're praying or not. You can do it or you can not. If that offends you, that's okay. But I'm going to kneel for liberty. God of the universe, we come before you and we ask you for justice. We ask you for liberty, and we ask you to deliver us from tyranny. We ask you for hearts that would be bold to stand for our neighbor and defend our fellow man. Hearts that would be slow to anger, and hearts that would be quick to forgive. And we ask you to help us restore America. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Now, I've learned through the course of standing for liberty that there's a few great truths like all men are created equal. Great truths like the right to our life, our liberty, and our property. Great truths like a Savior that died for my sins. Great truths like the absolute and fundamental right to defend yourself and your property. And I've asked myself in this, what is liberty? What are we dealing with? What are we doing? When I-594 passed in Washington, very similar to your bill here, about a month before it happened, I put out a video and I said, well, here's why you shouldn't vote for this, but if this passes, we must defy it. And I remember sitting watching the election results come in. And I want to talk a little bit today about tactics as we also talk about liberty, because I want to talk about how we can continue to nullify lawless legislation. Because lawless legislation is not law, it is tyranny. And it must not be obeyed. I've seen a lot of tyranny over the past year and a half. I've been at the Bundy Ranch. I've been arrested. I've stood in Washington with Patriots and Olympia. I've stood here. I know what liberty looks like, and I know what tyranny looks like, and I know that there's one thing that despots are most terrified of all, and that is when patriots stand bold for liberty and stand the line and say, I will not comply. And that's what we're doing here today. I want to remind everyone here today that, like in Washington, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. We just nullified SB 941. It is not law. We have come together here and we have defied it just like we did in Olympia. Now back onto my path that I was going down, I remember when the results were coming in, they weren't even in, and I said, you know what, we got to do something about this. I said we had to defy it. So I immediately put the graphics and the things together, and that very night, I started an event for the I Will Not Comply rally. And that's when I Will Not Comply started, and I said, okay, well, let's get our foot in the door before the legislative eunuchs and lobbyists that run our gun organizations come in and try to neuter this. How many of our gun organizations do you see here standing with us today? One. Right over here. Go say hi to these guys. Where's the NRA? Where's the gun owners of America? I want them to stand with us. I'm not interested in your lobbying. I'm not interested in your excuses. I'm interested in liberty. We are past the point of protesting, and we are to the point of standing peaceful and principled. This is America. We're a people of faith and peace and liberty. We're families and fathers and children and mothers, and we have these legislators getting together in these marble castles, daring to say that our rights are their decision. Well, my children's birthright is not up to these people. Right. Liberty is not the fringe. Liberty is the foundation. You can call me radical and you can call me crazy, But you know what? We need to stop and think, what did the founders intend when they wrote the Second Amendment? You see, this document here that I have with me all the time is the United States Constitution, and I often give it to police officers and government officials because I want them to uphold their oath. I know what liberty is, and I look at those officers and I want to support them. They have to choose, will you stand with liberty or will you stand with tyranny? But this Constitution gives us nothing. My rights are natural, God-given, irrefutable, undeniable, and they cannot be revoked for any reason. No background checks, no permission, no permits, because shall not be infringed means you absolutely shall not touch this liberty. And so we ask ourselves, what is liberty? Well, liberty is that freedom from evil, from tyranny, from despotism. Liberty is the ability to live peacefully. It's the ability to defend your family, to not be harassed and harangued and arrested. But when you stand up, and I know this firsthand, the government hates nothing more than when you stand up and you point the finger at them and you say, you are wicked. I went into the courtroom a few months ago. It was a kangaroo court down in Douglas County. And they drugged my brother from the courtroom with no due process and no cause, without a judge even in the room because he was filming. And I ran into that courtroom as the judge came in, and I stood up and I said, you are the criminal, and you should be arrested. Now, subsequently, I, of course, was arrested as I knew what would happen, but we must understand something about liberty. Friends, your guns are not liberty. Liberty is all-encompassing, and our guns are an important, critical aspect that we use to defend that liberty and defend our families. We must stand for liberty completely. We must stand for justice in our court system. We must not tolerate tyranny in taking of our guns and taking of our speech. We must stand united against tyranny. And make no mistake, these people that would arrest us for speech or for our guns, if these people arrest us for exercising an absolute and fundamental right, these legislators that dare to try and make criminals of those who would exercise their rights and defend the birthright of their children are bureaucratic terrorists. They should be regarded as such, and we should stand peaceful and principled, but we should stand bold against bureaucratic terrorists. Remove these terrorists from office. Are you more terrified of a terrorist 2,000 miles away or the ones in the halls of government all over America? Which one should we be more concerned about? So when we think about liberty, we need to think about liberty in every sense. Liberty in freedom from tyranny, and of course, liberty in defending ourselves and defending our right to defend ourselves. You see, they say to me, well, Gavin, you have to have background checks. You have to have this, and we have to have safety precautions in place, because what if someone's mentally ill? And I look at them and I say, who gets to decide who's mentally ill? The government? I know of no organization that is more mentally ill than the government in the United States of America. Are you kidding me? And so I say that due process and the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment and the Sixth Amendment, if you have not been convicted of a crime and are behind bars, if you haven't been convicted by a jury of your peers, and by the way, we can't even get a jury of your peers, because if any of you show up on my jury trial, you will be immediately thrown out, because they'll know that you will tend to side with liberty. Jury nullification, exactly, is an absolute and fundamental right, but you will get thrown out of court or arrested for even mentioning that. We are terrified of our courts, we are terrified of our government, we are terrified of tyrants, and we must stand for our children and for our grandchildren. Folks, liberty's not, it's not something to be hidden away on dusty shelves. We should be holding it up in front of us every single day of our lives, and we should be teaching it to our children and grandchildren. Because if we are not, make no mistake, our children and our grandchildren will take back liberty at the price of blood. And there's one thing that will never happen. If liberty is lost, if liberty is lost completely, my children will never say to me, "You didn't even try." And yours should not either, because we all must stand bold for liberty. So we know that there are great truths, and liberty is among those, and we know what liberty is. And we must remember as patriots that it applies to everyone, even those that we think are crazy. There is due process and there is justice for everyone. When I woke up that next morning after putting out the I Will Not Comply rally in Olympia, I got up in the morning and there was like 1,200 people already coming, and I'm like, what's going on? And there's something I want to remind us of. And the organizers of this rally did well with this, but we always need to remember boldness prompts people to action. America is tired of the NRAs. They're tired of the lobbyists. They're tired of the cowardice. They want bold action. And the reason I Will Not Comply exploded is because we came out and we said, not only will we not comply, we won't comply with any of your laws. The state talked to us and they said, well, you have to have a permit for that free speech because of... And we said, absolutely not. We will be here on this screen on this day. We come armed and we come for liberty, so get out of the way. The moment you ask for a permit for your liberty, the moment you ask permission from a tyrant, you are telling them, I have no liberty. I am a slave. You are not rallying. You are not protesting. You are not standing. You are licking the boots of tyrants. And I know we're used to this. We've been doing it for so long. The time is now to stand. And if there's one thing I've learned, I get called every name that you can possibly imagine on the internet. And people aren't used to people standing up. When patriots first start to stand, they are few. And they are deemed as radical, and then over time it gets more normal and people start to stand together. And the founders knew this. The founders also knew that government tended to grow to tyranny. And I no longer debate with tyrants about my gun rights. They say, well, what about statistics and what about this? Stop debating with fools. Stand principled and be honorable. But I say, you don't understand, you're confused. I'm not asking you for permission. I don't care about your statistics. I don't care if they're right and they're wrong. But I don't care because my rights are non-negotiable. My liberty and my children's liberty is non-negotiable. Don't you dare touch it. So in closing, I just want to remind us to stand bold. Don't just come together and wave flags and rally. The key to this, we're beyond the point of protests. I really believe this. There's three phases of dissidence. The first is the protest. We're to the point where when we simply protest, they stand up in their castles and they laugh and they mock and they get their whorish news media to come down and propagate the story the way they want. And so the second phase is defiance, and that's where we're at right now. We must stand defiant. We must rebel against lawlessness. We nullified I-594 in Washington because we stood up en masse, and it is widely regarded and ignored all over the state because it is nullified, and you must do that here. You must go out. You must remind people. Don't support people who sell you guns and demand that you give up your liberty to give it. There's no such thing as a lawful background check. Because a background check implies that they have the ability to say no, and they do not. So remind your legislators and your friends and your neighbors, and keep the fire alive, keep that spark of liberty alive in your breast, and remember what the founders said, when tyranny becomes law, resistance becomes duty. Understand that all law that violates our rights and our constitutions, it is not law. This legislation, I won't even call it law because it's not law. It is void the moment it was penned, no matter how many legislators or voters vote for it, because the collective does not have the authority to vote away your rights. So when you go out, remember the cost, and sometimes it costs us everything. Stand with those who are standing for liberty. Stand bold. Folks, we don't stand for liberty because it's easy. We stand for liberty because it is right, and because we must, and because it is just, and because if we do not, liberty will be lost in entirety and our children will become slaves. And so I ask you, who is willing to stand for liberty? Who is willing to die for liberty? Stand bold and stand principled and go out and take America back. Thank you.